You're listening to Alabama Tradition with Ryan Fowler and Martin Houston on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
America, we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. By honoring your sacred vocation of nursing, you impact your family, your friends, and your community. At Grand Canyon University, our online RN to BSN, MSN, or DNP degree programs allow you to balance online coursework with local in-person clinical, practicum, or immersion hours. Find your purpose at GCU. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu.
Alabama Tradition, the past, present, and future of the Alabama Crimson Tide. That's Martin Houston. I'm Ryan Fowler. We're going to be with you for the next hour. We're going to talk a lot of Alabama Crimson Tide football. We're going to talk about what this team was able to accomplish against Mercer, where they need to work towards to get down to the Florida Gators, the big test as they open up SEC play on the road. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about some Nick Saban audio. We've got some Bryce Young audio that we want to bring in. Might even have a little Dan Mullen that we'll throw in from time to time as we get ready for this Alabama-Florida game right here on Alabama Tradition. We'll also welcome you to be a part of it at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. Martin Houston, I hope your Tuesday has went well. Welcome into Alabama Tradition.
It has gone well, Ryan, and I'm glad to be in with you tonight. Looking forward to a great show, great time, and of course things are still good because the Crimson Tide sits number one at 2-0.
I'd like to go back to last Wednesday. Nick Saban came out and he had a message. I got to be honest with you. At first, I thought it was Nick Saban just pretending to be mad. But after watching the Mercer game, maybe there was something to that press conference that Nick Saban delivered following practice last Wednesday. Maybe there was a reason that Nick Saban was a little bit upset with his football team. I think we watched that show up on Saturday afternoon inside Bryant-Denny Stadium.
Yeah, it's interesting, Ryan. The rest of college football probably watched that first quarter, first 11 minutes of that game and thought, great. He plays against Mercer. They're clearly the better team. But look at all the coaching points he has managed to get just on the offensive side of the ball. Defense, I think defense came out and played pretty well early on. And other than that one bust on the long touchdown and then another bust late, defense really was dialed in, Ryan. And we hadn't talked much about that. We kind of just throw it out like it's the whole team. It was really the offense. And if you were writing a script, what would you ask for coming out of Mercer? You like to blow them out like you should, but you also like to walk away with some definite coaching points. And if you had to choose coaching points, it would be offensive line.
Sure.
Running backs. He got everything he needed out of that game. Discipline, intensity, accountability. He got everything he needed. So I guess the rest of the college world is like, we can't beat this guy because he's already better than us. He's had more talent than us. And then he gets great coaching points even when he plays Mercer.
Well, and there is plenty to coach. I want to go back because you took on defensive players, linebackers, defensive linemen. You had to perform blocks and move people out of the way. What do you think is wrong? Is this just simple about five guys not working together enough to maybe build some team chemistry and that unit to come together, or do you think there could be some offensive line issues?
I think first of all, Ron, I think that I don't know that we have the most talented five on the field. I do think we probably have the best five at this point. And what I mean by that is, Latham and Damian George. They may be better right tackles talent-wise than what Chris Owens is. But when they put them in together with the other 5, the chemistry may be way off. He may not be able to work as well in a combo block with Emil Ekiyor or a double team scheme. It could be a lot of things going on there. So I don't think the most talented 5 is out there. I think the best 5. Ryan, I'm just telling you, these offensive linemen, they they need time. And this year, believe it or not, they haven't gelled yet. When did we see the unit? How long has this unit been together when you really think about it? When did we hear that Dalcourt was even going to potentially be the guy and Owens kick out? How many times have they really practiced together? And then you take everybody go, well, they've been practicing together for 2 weeks. Well, we practice more. We were talking about this the other day. We probably practice more in a week than these guys practice as far as physicality and learning to work and combo. We were practicing more in live round, because it's different, live round action in a week than these guys do maybe in 2 weeks. So I think it's just going to take time for them to all gel. And don't be surprised if there's not some movement in that offensive line.
So, Martin, you hear Nick Saban, and we've got audio with him talking about Bryce Young, and we've heard this comment, and you've pointed it out on multiple shows when you go back and you'll hear him say, well, he's happy, but he's not happy he's happy with Bryce, but he's not happy with the guys that he's around. He was also asked a direct question about his running backs. He had a lot of great compliments on them. He said, we missed a couple of reads that I thought we could have more production. But it's kind of like the process of elimination. I don't think Nick Saban's happy with his offensive line. And as you said, maybe they flex in a couple of different guys. But we know what Emil Ekiyor can do. I feel like that we know what Evan Neal can do, even though he's at a different position. But you think about 3 guys, Landon Dickerson, Deontay Brown, playing in the NFL, Alex Leatherwood playing last night for the Raiders. I mean, that's a lot of manpower that's no longer part of that offensive line.
Well, 2 of them were first-round guys.
Sure.
And, one of them, I mean, I know, what's his name, didn't go in the first round, but you getting picked in the second round when you're, still just had knee surgery,
sure,
tells you what they think about you. And Brown was just, he's a mauler. If you go back 25 years, then he would be a first-rounder. In the style of play that he brings to the table. So you're not just replacing, what everybody else is replacing. You're replacing 3 guys that will all be starting probably by the end of the year on an NFL roster. And then you're replacing them with guys, Ryan, that don't necessarily – Chris Owens has played a lot, but where has he played? Everywhere. So he's really never honed in on one position versus the other. Dalcourt, I mean, we've been waiting on him to break out, and I think he does have a little bit of that Dickerson old school nasty in him. And I think if we lose him out of it, Ryan, that's going to be a really soft bunch. I don't know if you saw him on that touchdown block on the run where he just mauled the guy in the end zone and then kind of rolled on him a little bit. And then I think Cohen seems to be, a really, really good guy. So to me, I hate to say it, but the weak link in this line and a lot of what we're seeing that's causing pressure, it really does start with Chris Owens and that right tackle. Fortunately, that's in the face of Bryce Young, so he's probably saved us a lot because he sees it coming. And a lot of times we wouldn't even realize that there would be pressure because he gets rid of it so quick or reads it.
Well, and it just, we spend a little time thinking about it, and, we look at this offensive line, trying to find a way to get better. But it does set up perfect. I can promise you, I think this offensive line will perform a lot better. But if you want to, be a naysayer, if you want to be a half empty guy or half whatever, if you want to evaluate, you say, well, they had trouble with Mercer. And we saw at times this offensive line, I thought they should be able to push Mercer around. And I know that was probably not the game plan because they came out, the first drive, throwing it around. I mean, I think they took a shot early down the field pretty quick in that game. So maybe that was not the game plan. But I'd also like to get you to evaluate those running backs, because I think Najee, one of the things that he did well was run the football. But the other thing that he did well was picking up those guys coming, from putting pressure on the quarterback. How do you think the running backs have performed with taking on some of that heat?
Yeah, Ron, let me address one of our viewers, Curtis Moore. Said injuries during spring and fall training camp affected offensive line continuity. Also, he's right. That is part of it. Is even though if there was one group that was hit by injuries a lot during the summer, it was the offensive line. So that has helped. And there may be a reason that Randolph was the starting tackle. Maybe he helped that continuity. But back to the running backs, Ron. I've seen so many people saying Brian Robinson can't do this and Brian Robinson can't do that, and Brian Robinson isn't our best running back, and Brian Robinson isn't going to be the starter. Let me tell you, he wears number 9. He's the most valuable player on that team right now. He goes down, and all hopes of national championship probably goes out the window faster than any other player or position on our team. And Ryan, you ever noticed that there's always like the front line of protection, and then there's that next line? You want to make sure that second line is pretty good as well. And the second line of protection for Bryce Young is the running backs. There's a reason Brian Robinson is probably the starter, because he can protect. He's a pass protector. Think about Derrick Henry. How long did it take him to get on the field? It wasn't because he wasn't the best runner. It was because he couldn't play running back, which includes blocking, receiving, and running. And so we got some great runners at running back, but I don't know if we have some great overall running backs yet in the Jace McClellan and Trey Sanders and Wardell. And I think that's part of the reason that you see Brian getting it. To how they're performing, I don't think they've played bad, Ryan. I think they have missed a couple cuts, and that comes with patience. A lot of times, and this will help the offensive line, ironically, they sometimes, I think, make cuts too early, and that's what Saban's talking about. They don't what you call pressing the hole. They're coming to the line of scrimmage. It looks like the linebacker's unblocked, so they make a jump cut, and then the linebacker makes the tackle. Well, if they kept pressing the hole, running toward the hole is what that means, then that lineman would have eventually got up to that linebacker, and then they would have been able to squeeze through. But overall, I think our running backs, we're not going to have a Najee Harris in this group, but between Najee Harris and being good is a big gap. So I think we'll be fine in the running back position, whether it's Brian Robinson all year as a starter and the other guys by committee.
If you want to jump in, you're more than welcome to do that at 205-342-9904. I pick Martin's brain quite often. We're talking a lot of Alabama Crimson Tide football. We're going to run around the SEC in the later part of the show. But right now we're talking Alabama. We're going to move to the defensive side of the football coming up in the next segment. But, Martin, I want to spend a little bit of time here talking about wide receivers because, we talk about Najee Harris and the move to Brian Robinson and the other guys maybe trying to supplement what Alabama is able to do. But you back up and you think about Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. You go back to the year prior with Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy. I mean, we've had a run of wide receivers. I mean, it could be a book within itself, a documentary of just the talent at that position. There's talent there, but it's a lot of youth. I think these guys will be really, really good, but that's another group that needs some work.
Yeah, I think talent-wise, Ryan, and I know this is hard to believe, from top to bottom in the wide receiver room, I don't know if we've ever been this talented. I mean, I know we had 4, but we may have 4 now. We may have some top 2, second, third round guys that may not even play much in their career here at Alabama. I think Mechie and Williams are going to be as good as the other 2 combo in a regular season. Now, don't get me wrong. What Devontae Smith did was special, but I don't think his season would have been as special as it was had he been splitting all year with Waddle, but it would have been a special season for both of them. And I think that you can see Mechie and Williams on that. Ryan, just go back to if Williams doesn't drop that pass, he probably scores. He probably outruns that guy.
Oh, yeah.
He's the second fastest guy that they've ever tested at Alabama. Not at Alabama, but Dr. Ray and Ballou said he's the second fastest guy they've ever tested. Period.
Wow.
Okay, from a miles per hour standpoint. So, and then how are we feeling about the wide receiver room? You're thinking, oh my God, we got a guy that's going to go 70, 80 yards every game. And so I think they're good. To me, Ryan, this is what I'm waiting to see, because it's always my question. Wide receivers are the ones that make great running backs next. What do I mean by that? A 10-yard run, a 15-yard, a 12-yard run becomes a 25, 50, 60-yard run because of wide receivers. And I don't know that this group is committed to blocking yet.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if what we see out there is, oh, my God, he didn't make that guy miss. Well, sometimes he didn't make that guy miss because he thought the wide receiver was going to block him. And they miss it. So, wide receiver blocking is another thing that makes Alabama wide receivers really special. They do it really well, and I don't know how committed this group is to it yet, but we'll need that down the road.
Well, Martin, I go back to Devontae Smith. As you're sitting there pointing at, I remember, and I don't remember the team, but I remember Devontae Smith, the loudest I believe I've ever seen him get over, get onto another fellow teammate was when they missed a block. And he got up in a guy's face, and it was simply because he missed a block. And I can't remember if it was an end around or one of those jet sweeps or fly sweeps, but it was a wide receiver that missed a block. And I remember Devontae Smith just getting up in the guy's face and challenged him to be better.
A lot of wide receivers take pride in it, Ryan, because they know it separates them. They know that if we're known as a wide receiver group that's tough and will block, think about Ryan, if Devontae Smith is running at you and he blocks you this time and he blocks you the next time, and the next time he's stalking like he's going to block you, and you get ready to take on that block, and then he slips by you. I mean, you see what I'm saying? It's a part of the game. It's not – it makes them better receivers and route runners on play-action passes. That's why Julio Jones and – those guys and A.J. McCarron and those guys, they all blocked when they were here. That's why they were so good. Think about the New England Patriots. Their receivers were known for blocking. What's Tom Brady was known for? I play action pass, I'll kill you. So it matters, and it'll just take Bryce Young, this offense, and everything to the next level if we get receivers that's committed to blocking.
That's Martin Houston. I'm Ryan Fowler. This is Alabama Tradition. When we come back, we're going to take some phone calls. If you want to jump in, 205-342-9904. Denon, I see you. We're going to work to you coming up in just a couple of minutes. That's Martin Houston. I'm Ryan Fowler. This is Tide 100.9, the home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
You are listening to Alabama Tradition with Martin Houston and Ryan Fowler. Your connection to Tuscaloosa and the University of Alabama athletics on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
So we welcome you right back into Alabama Tradition, and we would ask that you would find us on a couple different things. Social networks, always an option. Martin not only does his show here on Tide 100.9, but he also archives it on Facebook. You can connect with him, Martin Houston 35 on the Twitter account, but just do a simple search there in Facebook. You can find Martin's page and friend page, and you can follow him there. You can also follow myself at Ryan C. Fowler, We enjoy the interaction, and we welcome those who want to chime in at 205-342-9904. 888-866-9904. And Martin, let's go to Denon. Denon, you've chimed in here on Alabama Tradition. I hope your day is going great.
Hey, got off work and I'm at home, so that's always a good thing.
Always a good thing.
Been some long 11 and 12-hour days for quite a while now, so it's getting to be a long – looking forward to that retirement in 12, 15, 20 years.
I got you. 12, 15, 20.
Yeah. Ever how long the Lord lets me stick around this place, I guess.
No doubt. What's on your mind, my
first
friend?
First off, before I forget, Martin, are you still going to be speaking at New Beginnings?
Yes, the 21st.
21st. I'll take it 21st. I couldn't make it exactly what day. I'm going to try my best to be there that night.
Well, come on out. We're doing it's called Rise Up. I'm going to be speaking for Pastor Randy along with several other pastors. He's doing a camp meeting for Rise Up, challenging us to challenge. He's challenging us to challenge the church to step up and take their place. And then the next week, he's coming to speak for me.
Oh, wow.
At my church, at Harvest Church. So, and we're having Reclamation 2021, and it's reclaiming, reestablishing the church and reestablishing the truth, reclaiming America. We both had the exact same mindset, D9, but we didn't talk to each other, and we both had each other on our minds. And it's a great example of how churches can work together, because we're both in the same, area, community as far as people we serve.
Oh, yeah.
And you
well,
Martin,
I'm looking forward. Like I say, I'm going to try my best to be there.
Martin, did you say the 21st? So that'll be next Tuesday?
Yes.
7 o'clock, 6 o'clock?
6:30.
6:30 next Tuesday.
Yeah, they can listen to you, listen here 30 minutes and then go there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We archive the show, so they can listen to that anytime. So encourage you.
Yeah.
New Beginnings, which I know Denon goes there, but it's behind Captain D's in Northport is the best way I know how to describe it. But
by the way, too.
And then the service at my church is the following week, the 26th through the 29th. Same time, starting time.
6:30, and that'll be the following week.
Yep.
Yeah, but get back to business. I guess say business. I don't want to get that, but y'all kind of touched on some things, I guess, throughout the talk a little bit, and I want to say that it's a riches, a blessings, and all. I mean, all the players and stuff. But I think this year, defensively, I think we're fine. But it's kind of like I think it's going to be that overall offensive wise, receivers, quarterback, linemen. It's going to be a tough learning curve. And I think a lot of Saban's frustration, like you was talking about with wide receivers learning how to block, stop trying to be the me, and be we, be the team, get my block. I mean, it's going to be a learning curve for these guys, and a lot of these guys are young guys. I mean, I guess when a huge portion of your offensive side of the ball gets drafted and everything, that it's going to be a learning curve. And I think it's going to be okay. I think we're going to be okay this weekend, but I think that as we go along and these guys get some continuity together, I think we're going to be better off, because it's tough to replace a lot of those guys. But then again, those guys got drafted for a reason, so we didn't really get a lot of playing time for these younger guys. When you're making a championship run, it's kind of hard to do that in a lot of cases, especially doing a full SEC schedule all the way through.
Well, and you think about this Alabama team coming out of this Mercer game, Denon, I just think we'll see a different team. I think it's perfect. I said it on Facebook. I've said it here on a couple of different shows. I was on in Houston, Texas earlier today, and I said the same thing. When you look at Alabama, if Alabama would have beat Mercer 69-0, then Nick Saban would have had a hard time getting his team down to ground earth. As it is, it's beautiful. It's perfect. It sets up right in his wheelhouse that he can come out and tell all these guys how wrong they were, not listening to him, the conditioning, the practice reps that they needed. That team's right dialed in.
Hey, Ryan, you remember what I told you at lunch? Alabama football needs a little more dad, and D9 where he slapped the desk.
He scared me to death.
He slapped the table, and he said this is what his dad did. But think about what he was saying this team needs and it spells out dad, dependability, accountability, and discipline. And that's why I said this team needs a little bit more dad in it. And I think we're going to see that. And had we, as Ryan said, had we played perfect or near perfect against Mercer, he wouldn't have the teaching points. When you can go back and show a guy on film, think about how good our defense played. But they did make some mistakes. And Coach Marchand over at Northridge, he said it this way. He said he plays these teams because he knows we can out-talent them, so we're not going to lose. But he also knows, D9, that it requires them to be disciplined in their approach to everything. And if they're not disciplined, a Mercer can beat you. So how much more will it take for you? How much more easier would it be for Florida to beat you if you're not disciplined? This week against Florida, when Richardson fakes it and starts to scramble and roll out, and you're the backside corner or the backside safety, you can't leave your area because he's rolling away and it looks like he's going to run. You have to make sure that the receiver's not streaking across the field and coming in behind you, and you're looking at the quarterback versus taking care of your responsibility. And that's what Mercer did. And if Mercer was able to trick him, Mullins has some stuff up his sleeve.
Oh, yeah. Well, Ryan kind of touched on, I think, Sunday, Ryan, you talk about the conspiracy theory. But, I'm not going to say a conspiracy theory, but I think a lot of it, kind of like Martin just said, learn to grow up. It's kind of like, okay, let them make the wrong calls on defense. Let them make the decision. Hey, don't correct them during the game. This week, now it's like, okay, now then, do you see where you messed up? Kind of a learning, and we wasn't going to get beat, but we got beat play-wise, and it cost us 14 points and some big plays here and there. But like you and Ryan both were saying, it's teaching points. Now then it's like, okay, now then you've given me all the ammunition to say, hey, I told you so. Now then, let me show you how we need to do this.
Great point.
And video has much more impact than words. We've seen that in society.
Oh, yeah. And social media, man, they're on it every day, so they can take it and run with it. Hey, man, God bless y'all. Roll Tide. COVID's got me closed off on the sideline again this year. Apparently, I'm not going to get approved to be on the sideline any, so I'll be there in spirit and praying, man. I hope everything goes well.
Thank you, D-Don. Appreciate you, man.
God bless. Take care.
D-Don, always a faithful listener. We appreciate D-Don. That's Martin Houston. Let's go down to Mobile. Brett, you're in with Alabama Tradition with Martin Houston and myself. Hey, Brett.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
I'm very good. How are you doing?
Well, hey, give me a second. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Not you. Not you. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm with a bunch of people.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
No problem. What's on your mind, Brett?
Well, okay, let's see. We got Bama going to Florida.
Sure.
Are we 15 or 20-point favorites now?
I just checked a couple of minutes ago. Ooh, it's actually went down. Since I opened the show, we are down to 14 points right now. So it's actually going the other way. It went up to 16.5, and now it's back down to 14 at several different spots. So 14 and 15, 16 points, that range.
That actually makes me happy.
Doesn't that mean that people are starting to put money on Florida, Ryan?
Yeah.
Correct.
Nick Saban could walk in and say, look at all these people doubting you. No, I mean, he's not going to use the spread, but, I mean, he'll find a way to twist it. But
Well, I was just, I was at the game Saturday, and I was a little disappointed. I wanted to call you Monday. Didn't have time, unfortunately. I had to fire somebody, so that caused me problems. And then today was a day, but today is Tuesday. But I was just concerned about the
what was your disappointment?
Intensity.
What was your disappointment, Martin would say, Brett?
Intensity.
Yeah, now actually, that's my next question for Martin. If I can set that up in the next segment, because I'm going to ask Martin. Martin has studied something throughout life and focused on a lot of different ways. And I'm going to ask him a question. That's actually a segment that I'm planning for next. Can I save that one until the next one, Brett?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. All right. What else is on your mind, Brett?
Not much. I mean, we're just I mean, I hope we go down there and win, of course. I was concerned about the injury aspect. I didn't know if you've heard anything. Sorry, I can't
we haven't
go online.
Yeah, we haven't. I haven't heard anything today, but I'll get something as soon as I come off the air. I'll try to maybe provide something. But I just based on what Nick Saban said, there's a lot of things that Nick Saban will get thrown his way, but there's one thing that Nick Saban will never do. He'll never lie to you as far as in the media. He's not going to mislead you. He's not going to tell you, hey, it's structure, it's this. To me, that's a good sign. He walked out and said, hey, we are very encouraged by him. I think if there would have been some issues, he would have confirmed it right there. I think Will Anderson will be ready to go. Unless there's some type of setback throughout the season. That's just, throughout the week. It's just my guess.
I understand. And I'm sure you've already covered a bunch of things. I was concerned about Bryce Young throwing to 2 defensive backs and no receiver, things like that. That was one of the things I was concerned about. But
do you think that was Bryce Young or the receiver?
I would say Bryce Young. Maybe it was a receiver. I'm not sure who was in the package. But Martin, you probably know better than I. But,
No. I'm just saying sometimes quarterbacks get. I don't remember the exact player you're talking about.
Yeah.
I was just saying that sometimes I've seen quarterbacks make passes and interceptions, and people think it was a quarterback, but there was a misread by the receiver. Like they. Let me give you a great example. We had a play, and it didn't end up in an interception at my high school team. The receiver was supposed to run a slant route. And on the slant route, he is supposed to come in front of the defender. Okay? So he's supposed to fire off, work to the outside, but he's supposed to cross the defender's face. And then the quarterback is reading the linebacker. Linebacker comes, which means it's a hot route, so he should throw it quick. Okay, so it's like he's coming. Boom, receiver's supposed to be there. He's supposed to throw it hot. Guess what the receiver did? The DB jumped in front of him, so he just worked around behind him. And if the quarterback had thrown it, he would have hit it would have been a touchdown for the other team, and it would have looked like the quarterback literally threw it right to the defender, and he would have. But the receiver would have been the one that was wrong in film study.
Well, my concern is the eyes.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean by that, Martin? Well, the eyes, how they're looking across the field. The eyes tell all. And, I'm not talking about that one particular play, but there was a lot of plays where his eyes were going one direction, only one direction. Or tell me I'm stupid, please. Please tell me I'm stupid.
Well, I hadn't noticed him not reading. I mean, he may be something, but I hadn't picked up on that. He's not going through his progression.
Yeah, and my thought was I thought he made it through progressions.
Okay.
To me, he's getting beyond. We had a caller that called in, and maybe in 2 or 3 o'clock hour, that pointed out and said, "When's the last time that Bryce Young looked down to a wide receiver and went to his first guy?" That just went to his first guy. So to me, he's going through his progressions by that. Martin, go ahead, chime in.
Only time he's not reading is like on the RPO, where that is the read, where it's his first guy and you throw it. Now I can tell you that part of what he may be seeing is sometimes he doesn't get through his progression because he's a young quarterback, and this is probably what. Tell me your name again, Brett.
Yeah, Brett Mobile.
Brett.
Brett,
what you may be seeing sometimes, and this is possible, and they even showed Aaron Rodgers doing it the other day in one of his interceptions, is the pass rush. You get to a point where you're not trusting the pass rush, and instead of going through your progression, you start through your progression on the right side, for instance, and because the right side ends up giving up pressure point, you end up locking in sometime. And it looks like to us he's locking in on the receiver, but he's actually looking at the pressure that's coming and then trying to figure out how to get out of it. So that may be what you've seen a couple times. I know I've seen that a couple times. You understand what I'm talking about? Like he goes back and his progressions to the right. He sees the first receiver is not there. The second receiver is not there, but it's still in the kind of like the same vision. So his head doesn't move. And then the next thing he knows, there's a defender coming free. So now his eyes never move to the other side of the field, and there was guys open. That may be is that what you're referring to, possibly?
Yes, it is.
I think that may be as much from the pressure, Brett, as it is his mechanics.
Hey, Brett, let's get to break. I really appreciate you. Thanks for pointing that out.
Guys. Hey, good talking to y'all.
Thank you, Brett. Brett brought up intensity, and I want to ask on the other side, Martin, you have studied leadership for pretty much the majority of your life. You were known as an excellent leader here at Alabama. I'm going to ask you if you see enough leaders on this Alabama team, really on the offensive side of the football. I'm going to ask you that question because you look at Devontae Smith, you look at Najee, you look at many other guys. Leatherwood was a big leader. Landon Dickerson was a big leader. I'm going to ask you, when you look at that offensive side of the football, do you see enough? I'll do that in 3 minutes. That's Martin Houston. I'm Ryan Fowler. Alabama tradition, the past, present, and future of the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Mostly cloudy with a few passing showers and thunderstorms likely through tonight. The high today 83, tonight's low 68. Tomorrow and Thursday, cloudy both days with periods of rain and possibly a few thunderstorms. Highs between 75 and 78. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 80 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The host of the game, Ryan Fowler, and the host of the Martin Houston Show, Martin Houston, have combined to offer a show filled with in-depth analysis of Alabama football and more. Alabama Tradition broadcasts live on Tide 100.9 every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. and is available live and on playback on numerous affiliates around the Southeast. Check out alabamatradition.com for a list of affiliates, as well as other great content.
We welcome you right back into the game here in Tuscaloosa, right here on Tide 100.9. This is Alabama Tradition. That's Martin Houston. I'm Ryan Fowler. Martin, I want to ask you a question. I'm looking at it, and listen, I understand when you look at Najee Harris, no Devontae Smith, no Landon Dickerson, no Alex Leatherwood. I mean, you could even, Jalen Waddle was a good leader on that team. You look at the defensive side of the football. I think they've got pretty good core leaders, but even over there, you look Patrick Surtain, Dylan Moses may not be the thumper that all of us were looking for, but he was a big leader, and I think Nick Saban put a lot of responsibility on him. But you look at this offensive side of the football, that was maybe the one thing that I noticed from being there. When things were not going well in the game, they were a little sloppy, I didn't see a lot of guys challenging one another. That was a little bit of a concern for me. What do you see?
Well, let me share. Curtis Moore II said, if you want to know the truth about it, Ryan Fowler, I see more leaders on the defensive side more than the offensive side. Folks like Phil Mathis, Henry T., etc. Not saying no leadership is on the offensive side. They just might not be vocal leaders. And that's kind of what you were saying as well. That's Curtis Moore II, one of our listeners out of Florida. But an Alabama guy. West Alabama guy, make sure you give him some love. But, Ryan, leadership comes in a lot of different forms.
Sure.
And you don't have to be vocal to be a leader, okay? You can, show up at work every day, do your job, and lead by example, and do a lot of things. And then there's natural-born leaders, Ryan. That's the guys that, like you go to a playground and then there's one kid that says, they say, hey, let's do this. And then one kid said, okay, I'm going to be a captain and you're going to be a captain and I pick first. Okay.
Sure.
and so that there's those types of leaders. And I think we have maybe a couple of those types of guys on the defensive side of the ball. And then there's the leaders who are appointed. You know what I mean? They have leadership by, it's called positional leadership. Like at Alabama 1, when they gave me a title called senior director. Well, I'm a leader because I have that title. And so Alabama has some guys there. And interesting on the offensive side of the ball, Ryan, they have an appointed leader, I think. I think that's why Saban chose John Mechie. I think he was of the returning guys, Evan Neal, Emil Ekiyor, and John Mechie, he was the most natural guy to appoint as a leader. It'll be interesting to see who comes out as captains. Have they picked captains on this team yet?
Not yet.
I don't think that. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes out as captains on this team, and if we'll have one of those scenarios. Wasn't like all the captains last year offensive guys?
Wow. I mean, if you think about it,
right?
I think you were right.
It?
Yes. I
Wasn't
never thought about that, but yeah, I think was Patrick Surtain? Let me go. I don't think so. I don't remember everything, but I think, you know what, you may be right.
I think it was.
Okay.
I think they were like Mac Jones and Leatherwood, and but my point behind that is, then there's leaders, Ryan, who are like the inspirational leaders, the guys who, as the game goes along, they're the ones who are going to get in guys' face. Now, it could be any of those three I just named.
Yeah, and
it could be the same person.
You're dead on the money. Landon Dickerson, Mac Jones, Alex Leatherwood, Devontae Smith. Those four guys were.
And what did we see? What have we heard about Mac Jones? Mac Jones was the guy, both offensive and defensively, right? You remember how they used to talk about him and the Joker and all that stuff? We saw it evident when Landon Dickerson went down that everybody loved the guy, so he was the leader there. So this team may be one of those teams, Ryan, that the leadership, even for the offense, has to come some from the defense. But I don't know if we have a Joker or a Landon even on the defensive side. So that's what my concern is. Who's the guy? Because I talked a lot about the types of leaders, but who's the leader when the car is going off the rail or is going downhill that will stand up and get in somebody's face? Like you talked about Devontae Smith. Who's going to be the guy that gets upset? Not when the ball's dropped and it's a touchdown, because everybody sees that, or when somebody fumbles the ball. But who's going to be the guy that makes sure the details are happening, like making a block on a run play as a wide receiver? And I don't know if we have that type of leadership yet. And I think that's what Nick Saban was saying. We don't have a guy who knows how to turn intensity up when he talked about last week's practice and how they didn't know how to self-motivate. Everything about this team, remember he said, was they are impacted by the external and not the internal. And so I think that was saying that we don't have anybody within our group yet that leads that. And we'll need that somewhere along the road, because we're not going to blow everybody out immediately.
Jacob, you pulled up your mic like you wanted to jump into the conversation. Please do, if you've got something.
Well, I wonder how much Jordan Battle, how much Fedarian Mathis, those are supposed to be the vocal leaders.
Right.
I wonder how much maybe they're not playing into that. Henry To'oTo'o is a guy that's a game plan leader, a guy that knows the playbook. That's where he shows his leadership. But you've talked about it before, especially with the offensive guys, with John Mechie and Bryce Young, and how those guys are. They're good leaders. They're well spoken, but they're also quiet. A lot like Devontae Smith.
Reminds me a lot of Amari Cooper quiet.
Right. So,
yeah.
But is there? I agree with what Martin's saying. Is there a guy like Mac Jones or Landon Dickerson that are loud and funny, but they can also kind of pick you up when you need it? And defensively, I wonder if that's not supposed to be Jordan Battle and Fedarian Mathis. I'm sure Will Anderson's a guy that does that, but again, he's a sophomore.
Yeah, that's the key. Is some of our leaders leadership may come from young guys. That may be what's taking so long, Ryan, is that it's going to be a young guy that emerges and I think we're all saying we know we have leaders on this team, but do we have a guy who knows when to lighten the mood, who knows when to make the mood serious, who knows when to get in the guy's face, who knows when to pat a guy on the back? And will it be all defensive guys? I mean, I never heard of a team having 4 permanent captains and all of them being on one side of the ball.
I never noticed it until you pointed it out.
I'd never seen that happen. But it explains last year's team and the dynamics of last year's team. I think they just let them vote for 4 guys and, top 4 getters get it. And that shows you the power of that offensive team last year, Ryan. And it shows you what we're trying to replace this year back to earlier in our program. It's not just talent that we're replacing last year. Think about that for a second.
Martin, we got 4 minutes here. Florida predictions, thoughts as we travel to Gainesville to open up the SEC play. Your thoughts and what you think that this group will be like as far as going down to Gainesville. What are you expecting?
Well, Ryan, first of all, I have a segment called Pump the Brakes that I do, and I am so tired of, oh, my God, they have dual-threat quarterbacks. That's how you beat Nick Saban. That is so old, so tired, and so wrong. It's always been a good quarterback who had a hot day, who had a big wide receiver. Now, that's a combination that's giving Nick Saban fits. Alshon Jeffries and Garcia and Mike Evans and what was that dude's name? Ran all the road. Manziel. Yeah, him. But, Burrows and you go to the receivers he had. I don't think this Florida team is ready yet. I don't know. These quarterbacks will see defensive schemes, I think, Ryan, more complex than what Alabama has shown on film the last couple of years. I think Golding finally has enough leadership that he can put some of that exotic back into Nick Saban's defense, because we've not been able to do that because we haven't had the leaders to communicate it and execute it. So I think that, there'll be a lot of hype. Swamp is a tough place to play, but I think Alabama, I'm not ready to give a score yet, but sure. I think Alabama will, without a doubt, come away with the victory. It'll be interesting early, but I think Alabama in the offense gets things going and pulls away.
It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about it. Alabama showcasing once again, going up against a top 15 matchup. Florida coming in at number 11. Miami earlier this season was number 14, so it'll be the highest ranked team, and it may be the toughest test as Alabama takes on the Gainesville Gators down in the state of Florida. So we'll be talking a lot about that. Martin Houston will do it tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m., and then we'll lead into the great lineup that we do every single day. So, Martin, we got to get out of here, but it's always fun to be able to talk Alabama Crimson Tide football with you and spend a lot of time here breaking down the Alabama game. Had a lot of great thoughts, and we appreciate all the feedback, Curtis, and phone calls as well. So a lot of people chiming in. Martin Houston will do it tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m. He'll lead us out of the gate. Martin, final thoughts, anything?
Just tune in to the best station in town and around, Top 109, and we'll keep talking football from 6 to, I guess, about 8, 9, 10 o'clock every night right here live and local on Tide 100.9. Join me in the morning at 6 a.m.
That's Martin Houston. I'm Ryan Fowler. Good night, T10. I'll see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock right here on Tide 100.9.
I pop the trunk, I pop the hood, Ferrari. And she got the goods, and she got that, I got to look sorry. Yo, it's got to be, cause I'm seasoned. Haters give me them salty looks. Lawry's 50 told me, go ahead, switch the style up. And if they hate, then let them hate and watch the money pile up. It feels like I go for mine, I got to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. I go for mine, I got to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. I'ma get on the TV, mama. I'ma put down. Welcome to the good life.
Tuscaloosa Top.